Playing online and on smart devices. Now on London Scottie Radio, it's podcast time. I'm George Matlock. Hello and welcome to another episode of, in this case, a very festive episode of Scottie MOT. I'm George Matlock, your host for today's programme. Delighted to tell you that we have on the line Cath, Marchbank, who is the welfare officer of STEX, the charity that we work with here at London Scottie Club. So first of all, a very big aroo and hello to you.
Hello, George. Glad to be back.
We're glad to have you back. So this is your second episode now, isn't it, of Scottie MOT?
It is, yes. And I was quite shocked because after the last episode, I had a couple of phone calls.
Oh dear, not from the lawyers, I hope.
No, not from the lawyers, but we've been able to help a couple of people, which is wonderful.
Oh, that's wonderful. I think that deserves a fanfare. That really does. I haven't got a trumpet to blow, but you get the idea. Okay, well, tell us, so what happened? So after the programme was broadcast, you say you had some feedback.
Yep, I had a call via WhatsApp, a lady saying that her daughter's dog, she was having a little bit of trouble with it, a young Scottie, and so I got the girl's phone number, spoke to her, and hopefully we've managed to put some training in place, and we can prevent the dog from snapping and attacking the dogs again.
So tell us a bit more about this. So just so we understand the colour, obviously we won't say the name of the owner, but maybe just the first name of the owner, if you remember.
Yeah.
So what actually was, so this was a behavioural problem? What exactly did...
Yeah, the lady, the dog was being delivered back from daycare and with another dog, and the little dog snapped out at the other dog. Now, it could have been a little bit of jealousy. I don't believe there was any food involved, but it could have been just seeing her owner, mum's there, and I don't want you, to have to share with the other dog. And so there was a little episode where the Scottie attacked the other dog. I think the person from daycare who was holding both dogs was very upset, as you would be. But, these things do happen, but you've got to get the ground rules in place, which I've spoke to the dog's owner, and she's changed a few things, and her behaviour is starting to get a little bit better. So
fantastic.
She's only a young dog. She was just starting to put her feet firmly on the table and say, I want to do things this way, and pushing her mum a little bit. So hopefully they've got on top of her now, and she can carry on socialising with other dogs. I can't say that this incident won't ever happen again, but once you're aware of it, and just give the dogs a little bit of space and don't let the dogs go right up face to face with one another, then that's generally a key to to stop these episodes.
And how old is the dog, do you know?
She's only young. She's only just 1 year old. Right,
so I guess in a way this is partly a discovery experience as well, isn't it, for the owner? Because a new dog, definitely. And what do I do now? So what kind of advice were you able to give? It's obviously having some effect, which is positive.
Yeah, I think making sure that they don't let the dog up on the furniture, some of the ground rules, because people think, the dog comes up on the furniture, it's so nice. It is good to have the dog on the furniture if you've instigated that cuddle time, as I call it. If the dog is jumping on the furniture of her own accord, then they rule in the roost, and it's, I'll do this and I'll do that. So, you've got to say, no, I'm sorry, you're not allowed up on the furniture, down in your bed. And you get a little bit fed up of saying that for a few weeks. But once the dog realises her place is the floor, then she'll respect you and know that you're her leader, and she'll respect your commands when you're out and about.
Well, that's a very interesting account because, as you know, one of my dogs is a Wheaton, and his name is Pudding. I don't mind saying that on air. And he does think he's the boss. I mean, he will very often jump onto the sofa And people say to me, Scotties, they're not sofa dogs. Well, they should come and see mine then. I mean,
Yeah.
this one is very sofa orientated. And if I ever sit down, he watches me from across the floor. And if he ever sees me sit down, like usually in an evening to watch a bit of TV or whatever, sit down on the sofa, within seconds, he's walking across and just jumps from, point blank range, really, straight up vertically like a Hawker Siddeley Harrier and lands on, on the sofa next to me. And he does that every single time he sees me sit down on the sofa, and it's immediate.
Yeah, but sometimes it is, I just want to be close to my dad, I want to meet and greet. Now, so long as when he's on the sofa, he will get down when you ask him to, then you haven't got too much of a problem. What you've got to be careful of is if he becomes, this is my sofa and I'm not going to share it with anybody.
Yeah.
So if your wife comes to sit down, or you've got a visitor who's coming to sit next to you, and he can then start grumping and growling, and a lot of dogs do actually bite at that time. So I always advise put the dog on the floor before you let anybody else to come and sit on the sofa. Give the dog the command to go down and into its bed, and that way you're taking away the risk of a dog snapping out and saying, "This is my chair, I don't want to share it."
Yeah, I mean, he is very much daddy's boy, which is certainly true. So I think there's a part of that is that he wants to be close. I mean, he will very often, when I'm sitting on a kitchen chair, he will sit underneath the chair. He will wrap around like a cat, curl up underneath the chair. He's always very close to me anyway. So that's why I always take it as a rather an affectionate and rather charming thing to do.
Yeah, it certainly can be, but so long as he will do as he's asked, if you say get down, that he will get off the sofa, and if he won't, then you need to start saying, no, this isn't allowed, and just put him in his place a little bit.
I will try that. I've got a feeling there's going to be some cross words between us, but I will definitely try it.
I think he'll sulk for a little while. You know how our Scotties can sulk?
Oh, yes, and they give you that sour look as well with their eyes.
Oh, definitely, that Scotty eye, and how dare you talk to me like that?
That's definitely a Scotty trait. Okay, now you said there were a couple of calls you had, or a couple of approaches after the podcast. Are you able to tell us about the other episode?
Yeah, the other one, it was a lady who's also a very young dog, only 14 months old, a little male dog. He was bought during lockdown, so he's not met many people. The lady lives on her own, she's an elderly person, so that people haven't been coming to the house. So now when people do come to the house, he wants to guard, and he wants to, if you're not allowed to come in, and I will snap and bite you. So quite a naughty little boy. So he's actually come in for, as I call, a little bit of boot camp, and he's coming in. He came in just after the last podcast. I shot over to pick him up, and he's doing very well. He's not there yet, but we're getting there with him. He's learning that we've gone back to basics. We've gone back to using a crate for him, so we feel safe in the crate. And then he's not in the crate all the time. We let him out, and he's allowing now people to walk around the room without snapping at them, which is good. Certainly, I will not let this dog on the furniture, because he really does think if I'm up there, I am the boss, and I will snap out.
Yeah. And
he's firmly down on the floor, and it's just the way forward with him. And hopefully, he'll learn that, he doesn't have to guard everything and everybody. And he's just starting. He's been here 2 weeks now, almost 2 weeks, and he's just starting to relax and, learning, I think, what about being a dog and sharing things.
So he's literally staying with you every day for the last 2 weeks in the boot camp?
Yes, yeah.
Right. Is he allowed to send postcards?
His mummy wants him back and would have him back tomorrow, but he's not fixed yet.
Right.
So,
and it sounds like she's being very patient about all of this as well.
Yeah, because if he was to go back and he's not fixed, then we're just going to be back to square one with him.
Yeah.
He's a very difficult dog, because he comes and he's wagging his tail at you like he wants the attention. You put your hand down to stroke him, and he really is snapping out at you.
Oh dear. So he's pretending to be nice, and then he turns all Jekyll and Hyde.
Oh, definitely, yeah. So he's very mixed up. He's not sure what he wants. So we've actually got an appointment with the vet tomorrow, because I want to just rule out to make sure that there's no pain anywhere with him.
Yeah.
Because generally, I always say dogs always, the reason why dogs bite is they're either frightened to death or they're actually in pain.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you because this is obviously what a 14-month-old dog. I mean, you have obviously in Stex a lot of experience of dogs that you've had to help, who are rescues, and of course, very often they come with a certain amount of baggage and a certain history. And it's not always obvious what that history is, but I know you obviously do your best to trying to trace and work out what's been happening, and then to try to help correct the dog. I mean, here, this is a young dog. I mean, there's no obvious sign of any problem. Obviously, the owner must love the dog. I've no doubt there's no abuse
Oh,
involved.
definitely.
Yeah.
Implicitly, she loves him to pieces.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Well, look, let us know, give us an update in the new year about that and how he's getting on. We'd
Yeah.
love to hear some good news about that. Right, okay, let's turn to now events of the day. And we've had a few questions in. I mean, one that I've picked out from the mailbag comes from a lady in North London. She was asking, she's got a young dog. I think the dog is about 12 months old, so it's just about leaving puppyhood. And this dog has now acquired the taste for chasing squirrels, and apparently it's rather out of control. Meaning the owner is worried that this dog, she is a bitch, she is a female dog, that the dog is just focused completely on squirrels. As soon as she sees squirrels up a tree, whatever, that's it. She freezes, she looks up, she barks, and the owner gets no chance of sort of redeeming control over her dog. Is this, I mean, they are ratters. Obviously, they do chase rodents, and squirrels are among the rodent population. Is this something we should just accept and it's a natural thing? Or do you think there's anything we can do about that?
No, it's got to be trained, and she's got to be told she's not allowed to do it because, if she's happens to be off lead in a park and she sees a squirrel and, the squirrel doesn't always run up the tree, and if it decides to run across the road or across the grass, the dog could then end up on the road and get injured, and get killed, heaven forbid. So you do need to practice that recall and breaking that hunt instinct in them.
Yeah.
So my advice is to keep the dog on the lead, because you can have fun. Take your dog out for a walk and have lots of fun with her still on the lead. So you don't have to feel that she's got to be off the lead at this stage. So, and use a long line with her so you can get that recall. Now, what you need to do is to find what's making her tick. With some dogs, it is food, and it's great if they are food orientated because you can break that prey instinct by feeding her food. So don't feed the dog before you go for a walk. Actually, take the food with you, what you're going to feed her, what she will be eating that morning. Take that with her and then feed it to the dog on the walk. So you're using that food to say, come to me, come to mummy. Don't go chasing squirrels. Or a squeaky toy. If your dog's ripped the teddies apart, these little things that squeak. Inside there's a plastic circular thing, which is great, that you can keep in your pocket and actually squeak that. So when you're walking along with her on the lead, every now and again just squeak the little squeaker, and it just gets the dog's attention. So if you can then train the dog that when you squeak that, she comes to you. So when she's running to go to chase that squirrel up the tree, you squeak the squeak, and hopefully the squeak is more enticing and better than the squirrel chasing.
Right. So what you're basically saying is that the key to success with this is, in order to regain control over your dog, you've got to regain attention of the dog.
Definitely. And with terriers, because they are stubborn, they're strong-willed, it is a long training process. But keep in there with her and not allow her to run up that tree and chase the squirrel. People, you'll see people in the park and they let the dogs chase it because they think, oh, it's fun, it looks good. The dog's looking up the tree and the squirrels run along. It's 3 or 4 trees away by now. But I do hear reports where sadly the dogs do get knocked down, because the squirrels don't always run up the tree. As I say, they run away, and the dogs give chase, and unfortunately, they're hit by the car or can get lost.
Yeah, well, this is it, and actually, you've reminded me of an incident that happened a few years ago. Where I live, we've got a green, a recreational green, and in the middle of it, we're sliced through by the South Circular Road, which, as you can imagine, is a fairly busy thoroughfare in London. And I was talking to a neighbour of mine who had a mongrel. It wasn't a Scottie. It wasn't any particular pedigree, but it was quite a smart dog, obviously, and very energetic. And I remember my neighbour. We were on the green. I had my Scotties with me, and we were just having a good old chit chat and about this, that, and the other. And then he suddenly turned to the subject, said, "Oh, you know, my Lola, I think was the name of the dog. She recently, see that churchyard over the other side of the road, of the north of the South Circular Road. She chased a fox that she saw there, and literally." I said, well, that's dangerous, you know, because obviously you're crossing a busy road where cars won't see a small dog. And this was a small dog. It wasn't a Scottie, like I say, but it was the same sort of size and proportion as a Scottie. And before I could even say that, there was an action replay, meaning the dog bolted literally right next to us, seeing again a fox on the other side of the road, and did the same thing. And I said, well, you don't need to tell me what happened. I can see it now. It's all happening live, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrifying.
Really is. It's so scary, you know, when that happens.
Mm.
So you've got to be in control of your dog at all times. So, you know, if you're in a busy place, a lead, you know, use a long line so the dog can still run and play. You know, you've got to really have fantastic recall. And, you know, Scotties aren't always the best at recall. So you've got to find something that makes them, you know, want to come to you.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's great if it is food. You know, that is the easiest thing. You can rattle a little tin and the treats can be in there. You know, open that packet of cheese. You know, the dogs can, you know, it makes me laugh when I've got the older dogs in. You know, you'll be shouting the names, come on, and they don't take any notice. But they can hear that fridge door open, that cheese wrapper come out of the cheese box in the fridge from, you know, half an acre up the field. They are there, you know, they hear it. Finding what makes your dog tick.
Yeah.
And it can be, if the dog's very, you know, likes its squeaky toys, you know, take a toy out with you, you know, or get the dog to carry a ball, have something so it's listening to you.
Mm.
And, you know, the moment it goes to chase a squirrel, it's nope, you're not allowed, you know, and you've got to use your recall, tug the lead, and turn the dog away from the tree.
I certainly like the idea of taking some kind of treat. A cheese that immediately reminds me of Wallace and Gromit, and, you know, more cheese, Gromit.
Oh, that's it. The Scots generally like the cheese. What you've got to be careful of is that you're not rewarding the bad behaviour.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you make that separation though? How do you make it not look as though it's an incentive?
Well, it all depends on what discipline you are doing. So at the moment we're talking about the squirrel up the tree.
Yeah.
You know, if the dog has chased that squirrel and it's, you know, it's barking, it's got it. Generally, they stand at the bottom of the tree. The front paws are halfway up the trunk, and they yap 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 yap.
That's
you know, and they're running round and chasing circles around the trunk of the tree. So in that instance, if you can get the food, you know, because you're shouting the dog's name, come on, mate, come on, and the dog is just frantically running round, you know, you can say blue banana, green banana, yellow banana, the dog is going to take no notice whatsoever. So it's to break that cycle of it, allowing the dog to bark. So sometimes if the dog is very food orientated, as soon as you get that, you know, nice treat out of your pocket and you make a big song about rattling the paper, and the dog says, oh, my treat, I'm going to leave, you know, the treat is better than the squirrel.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, if the food doesn't work, then, you know, clapping your hands, you know, again can work, and it's just a distraction. You know, you've got to be able to nip it in the bud before, you know, the dog has given chase and set off.
And presumably the sooner you identify and deal with the problem, the better, because otherwise it becomes more resistant and a bit of a habit.
You know, and I think sometimes we've made a rod for our own backs because of we've got a young Scottie as a puppy. A lot of the times we are playing, you know, like tug of war, and we've got a squeaky toy, and they generally look like squirrels or ducks and things, and we're going, you know, chase this, you know, grab hold of it, shake it around. And so we're instigating that prey instinct in the puppy. But most Scotties don't need that because it's just inbuilt into them. They're already wired up for that. I've had the most placid of Scottie girls in, ex-breeding girls where you think, they're so sweet, they wouldn't hurt a fly. I had one Scottie girl and she was so tiny, she actually managed to get through a sheep netting fence and into next door's field, and she killed a chicken.
Oh, dear.
And I was absolutely mortified.
Oh, dear.
Because I was actually out with her at the time, but she was so tiny she managed to get through the sheep netting. But, I thought, she's not going to do anything to those chickens. By the time I got over the fence, she was running around with it in her mouth and she'd actually killed it.
Oh, dear.
So, and this is a dog that, I don't think had ever seen chickens or birds before in her life. But it's just, it's already wired into them. It's inbuilt into them.
Indeed it is. As swiftly moving on from chickens, perhaps to turkeys this time of the year. As I mentioned earlier, this is the festive edition of Scottie MOT. And I thought we might wrap up with some advice for owners about what to give or not to give to their dogs at this generous time of year. What advice would you have, Cath?
If the dog is used to a dry, complete meal and it has that for 355 days of the year, keep it on the Christmas day as well, because no doubt if you start giving the leftovers of the turkey dinner, or goose or whatever, if the dog's not used to that rich food, you're going to come down with tummy trouble. And it's a trip to the emergency vets, to get some medication to stop the runs, or stop the dog being sick. Now, if your dog is used to every week it has, a little bit of your Sunday roast or, some food that's left over, then great, give it a little bit of something to eat. Don't overindulge. Don't feed the skin, don't feed the fats. Keep it low fat. A nice little bit of turkey or chicken, whatever you're eating, won't do the dog any harm if it's used to eating that type of thing.
And of course, as well, we always avoid, things like chicken bones, because we know that there are those needle ones, which are very dangerous indeed. And presumably turkeys have got something like that as well.
Yeah, please be careful with where you dispose of the carcass for the turkey. Make sure it goes into a outside bin that the dog can't get into, because so many dogs, they'll jump up, and they'll get to the remainder of the turkey to pinch it because it smells so good. It's been roasted in the oven. They've been led there salivating while it's been roasting.
Making me hungry.
Get those bones, they will choke on them.
Yeah, absolutely. And they are dangerous. They're sharp. And even if they get ingested, who knows what else it can cause in terms of damage. No, it sounds like very sage advice. Get it? Sage advice. Maybe. Okay. I'm full of stuffing tonight, aren't I?
Oh, definitely, George.
I don't have a script. I just make this up as I go along, Very good advice, though, and I think a lot of people will certainly be willing to take note of that. And it's really good that you talk about the turkey, and also, as you said, to make sure you dispose of the carcass. In the same way as you don't want the fox to be able to get at it, you don't want the dog to get at it, and it should be pretty much the same rule, shouldn't it?
Yeah. And it is worth always keeping in some paste. You can buy it off the counter.
Yeah.
At the these drug companies, and if you keep some paste in, if your dog does get an upset tummy, because you go down to the vets, they'll say, use this probiotic paste. It calms the stomach down. They'll charge you 30 or 40 quid for it. And if you buy it online, have it in stock, it doesn't go out of date. It'll cost you about £6.
Well, that's a big saving. That's a fair amount of dog food you can get for that difference.
It certainly is. So it's always worth keeping some of the paste in.
Yeah. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure and a joy. I want to wish you all the very, very best over the Christmas holiday season, and that you will be joining us for Scottie MOT in January. It'll come sooner than you think.
We'll have to get used to writing the new date, won't we?
Absolutely right. So just so that listeners know, Cath is on once a month, so we'll be looking forward to her company around about mid-January next time. Cath Marchbank from Stex, it's been an absolute pleasure. Before you dash, I'll just remind people that if they would like to, if they've got concerns about the health of the dog or the behaviour of their dog, and they would like to raise some of these questions either with Cath or with Jackie, who is our other expert on this program, then please do go to our website, londonscotty.club, and look for the contact page and just submit via the form there. Just give as much information as you can. We won't reveal the full name of the owner, maybe just the first name of the owner, and that's it. We won't even mention the name of the dog, just to be on the safe side. We respect confidentiality and privacy, but we know that there are people out there who've got real concerns and stories that really we would love to help you with. We'd love to help you find a solution if we can, and if we can't, we will be honest about it and we'll suggest that you go to a vet. But either way, do keep the questions coming in, and we very much hope to be able to help some of you out. So thank you again for that. Cath, once again, a real pleasure. Have a great Christmas.
Thank you, George, and you. Happy Christmas.
Thanks for listening to London Scotty Radio. This and all our podcasts are available online at londonscotty.club. If you liked it, be sure to subscribe to us from your favourite podcast player app. Also visit us on YouTube for fun videos. And if you have a Scottish Terrier in London or nearby, be sure to join us.